Welcome to A Second Helping with Allison Bartow, a wedding photography podcast with a focus on second shooting. On this week's episode, we find out if I'm being scammed or not. We have a groom with 16 groomsmen, a grandmother with good taste, a love of party planning, a strong will, and a seemingly unlimited budget. And lastly, surprise, the mummers are performing.
Good morning. If you're listening to this, there's a good chance that I did not get kidnapped in some sort of second shooter booking scheme. So what happened was Wednesday morning I woke up, I had received 2 emails with job offers from the same photographer. When I clicked on them, it took me into the ShootWithMe dashboard, but the jobs had expired. So I looked at them. The photographer offering the job didn't have any reviews or any ratings, and the wedding information just had a street address with no venue name. So out of curiosity, I looked it up, and it turned out it was Ballroom at the Bend, which is a venue that I haven't shot at previously, and I really want to shoot there. And I looked, and the offers had come in at like 12:30 and like 1 a.m. with an expiration time of like an hour. So those were red flags and just sort of indicators that something was weird. And I was like, okay, that's fine then. So a couple hours later, I was like, it's just weird though. Like, I don't understand. So I reached out. I don't even know how. I found like a contact number, maybe from the original job offer. It was kind of hard to find because it was like, if you have any questions, contact the offerer. And then it took a little bit to find a number. So I just sent a text message saying, hey, following up, I had seen a couple of offers come through, making sure that you found someone to fill the job. And so I think it was a little while later, maybe like a couple of hours, they wrote back to me and said, no, we haven't found anyone. Are you available? Are you interested? So I said yes. And then they asked for an email address to send information over. So I'm thinking I'm going to get like the timeline or the agenda or something. And so then so I'm feeling good at that point. And then I get an email, and it's kind of a generic templated email, corporate, professional, like there weren't any misspellings or anything. I looked up the photography studio website, nice website, like nothing looked hinky with that. They're located up in Rhode Island, so that had been sort of a red flag too, because all of a sudden there was a Rhode Island photography studio sending requests in the middle of the night for a wedding in 4 days. I don't know if I'd mentioned that part. So actually 3 days. So I read through all that information and I was like, okay, there's nothing weird here. And then they said, if you're interested, click here to do onboarding. So it was just very, again, sort of corporate. And I was like, oh, here we go. Now they're going to ask for like my mother's maiden name and my social security number. So I clicked, and it was luckily not that. It was just general information. So the weird part was they had like a sense of urgency, but then the communications were sort of slower paced, like, moving along at a regular onboarding time frame. Even like the document they sent over with their general information said, we tend to book our second photographers 6 to 12 months out from the weddings. And I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, okay, well, this is 3 days. The one email was like an introductory email, and it said, click here to schedule like your onboarding intro call with our director. And so I click on it, and the next available date isn't until like mid-September. So this is 2.5 weeks out and well past when the actual event is. So red flag, but I'm like, okay. So I emailed them, and I replied all, and I just said, hi, I clicked on the link. There wasn't anything available. But then they wrote back to me right away, and she said, here's my direct number. I'll be available, anytime up until 4 today or something. So I was like, okay, well, that's good. So in the meantime, I went on our local Facebook group for photographers, and I posted asking if anybody had worked with them. And I got a message, a comment, and then a direct message from Nathan, who is one of the founders and co-owners of ShootWithMe, And he let me know that he had actually spoken to the owner of this studio the day before, and they were just getting started on Shoot With Me, and everything seemed legit. So that made me feel a lot better. So I was like, okay, they're just getting started. He said they're like branching out into this area. They're expanding their service radius. And it made sense then, because I was like, okay, if they don't really know how to put a request out, that might explain why I was getting multiple requests with a 1 hour, time, a deadline. So I was like, okay. And then I had like that intro call. She was great. She answered all the questions, no red flags at all. So I am moving forward. I am currently driving down to the city now. There will be 2 videographers, a lead photographer, and then me. And the wedding, I'm very excited about it. I've never been at photographing a wedding or an event. I don't think I did an event, a ballroom event. I'm pretty sure I haven't. Sometimes I think that, and then I get to venues and I'm like, oh wait, I have been here before. But it's definitely not been any time recently that I've been here. So I'm excited about that. And then when I was reading over the timeline, I was like, oh, this is a typo. They don't have 8 bridesmaids and 16 groomsmen. But I followed up, and that's actually correct. So 8 and 16 for the bridal party. But what's exciting is she doesn't want like individual posed portraits with like the bride and each bridesmaid, or the groom and each groomsman. She just wants candid photos. And then she keeps saying she wants like blurry, non-posed candid moments. So I'm like, that's great. And then she had in her intake form, which I also love, they had like a Dubsado intake form that has like all of the information that you would need entered by the bride, and she just checks yes or no for different things, and I really liked it. So it's not a shot list, but it's actually asking, will these certain events be occurring, with the cake cutting and parent dances and things like that. So that's in there. And then she had made a comment that she is in love with the look, the editing style, everything from Olivia Culpo's engagement video. So I went onto Olivia Culpo's Instagram page, scrolled down, found that, and watched, and it's really good. It's beautiful. It's a video, and I'm watching that. And at the very end, it has the videographers, which was this same studio. So I was like, wow, okay, so they're legitimate. And I really liked the style and everything. So this bride is very much into like this aesthetic. She sent over Pinterest things. I'm almost a little bit concerned that she wants everything blurry, and then down the road might look back and be like, maybe I should have asked for a few more in focus. So obviously the majority of my pictures will be in focus, but I will also be very mindful to experiment with, getting a little bit of everything also with like the motion blur to it. But that's like all she keeps talking about, and that she doesn't want things posed. And hopefully that doesn't change, by the time we get there. But that's what she's saying. The woman from the studio who has been having conversations with her said that she's been great to work with, really likes her, all of that. So we shall see. I mean, it should be a nice wedding. It's a ballroom at the bend. They paid for hotel rooms for the photo and video team for last night and tonight to stay at the Loews. So my plan is I'm driving down now. I am going to hopefully park at Ballroom at the Bend. I'm going to try to get in there and see if I can drop off some light stands and the majority of my flashes, and then head over to the hotel to Loews, which is like less than half a mile away. If I can't do that, I might leave my light stands, depending on where I'm able to leave my car. I might leave my light stands in the car and grab them when I come back, but we'll see. Then I'll head over to the Loews, meet the team, do groom prep. I will leave with the guys and go to the church, which I have photographed at least 3 weddings with Dave there. So I'm familiar with the church, and then we'll be on the trolley for that. And like my anxious brain though, I was like, you have a wedding party of 26 people. That's not including any parents or anything else. That's 26 people plus the 4 of us. That's 30 people. Those trolleys don't fit 30 people. So I don't know if they're going to have 2. I'm not sure what's going to happen. But I also have to realize that that's not really my responsibility, but it's hard not to be a little bit nervous. I don't know why. So that's the game plan. The last time I looked at the weather, it was like sunny, 85. The only outdoor portraits are going to be over at think it's Race Street Pier, which I haven't photographed there before. She didn't list any of the other iconic spots, so we'll see what happens with that. I'm glad we won't be running around outside for majority of the day, unless that changes. And then any other outside portraits would probably be sunset portraits on the balcony at the ballroom, and we'll see. But other than that, I'm excited, and we shall see what unfolds. All right, talk to you later. Okay, it is actually it's only 10:30. It was a great wedding, great day. Got down to the city. Parking lot I wanted was pretty empty. Surface lot, parked there right across the street into Ballroom at the Bend. Breaking and entering? Nope, you just enter. You just walk right in the door. You go upstairs. There's the ballroom. So it was unlocked. I went right in, dropped off my light stand bag and my navigator bag filled with most of my flash equipment. Met the florists and the sous chef. I confirmed it was okay to just leave my stuff there and walked around. So I was able to kind of get the lay of the land and just see some of the spots I'd seen on Instagram. And then I made my way over to the hotel, checked in with the team, had a little breakfast, and who showed up? The videographer, Sean, showed up. I mean, he made great time. He showed up right at 11 driving down from Rhode Island. So I got like the room numbers for where the guys were doing their prep and the bride suite. And the team, they were like, I don't want to say laid back. They were serious, but they weren't like stuffy. They were great to work with. They weren't hard to work with. I feel like they communicated, but they weren't like breathing down anyone's neck, but they cared. So I went with Jaden, like the assistant videographer, and he's only 16. He's been doing weddings for the past couple of months. He's a sweet kid. And we walked into it was a groom, it wasn't a suite or like a hotel room, it was like a mix between a hotel room and a conference room because there were 16 groomsmen. And so they opened the door and the groom is wearing a robe and has a Harry Potter sword tucked into the belt of his robe, and most of the guys are wearing button-up baseball jerseys, and they were blue and whites. They weren't the Phillies. I'm not sure who they were, but I was like, okay, all right. And then they ended up being awesome. So when there's that many people in a bridal party, I feel like everyone, it's like sort of like mob mentality where people are just like, oh, someone else is doing that or someone else will take care of that. And these guys were really great. They were like respectful. They weren't like doing shots really. They were just drinking whatever it is, stateside vodka. And they weren't like obnoxious, just, I don't know. Sometimes the conversation in those rooms is a little much, but these guys were really nice. The groom was super polite, and I just kind of said, give him a little bit of instructions about like when you're going to get dressed, if you could come over here, that kind of thing. And we did that, and then he let the guys know a couple times, like, all right, at this time we're going to do this, so get dressed, and then we're going to go here and then there. So he was really like giving them instructions. It was clear because, I mean, with that many people, it can just go so sideways. So he was really on top of it. And they didn't do the first look with the bride, and I like let everyone know on the team with the bride, and then I checked in. I did say something to the groom, like just so that it wasn't something that got forgotten. We went down. The guys looked great. They were in tuxes, just really nice. And we went downstairs to the lobby area, got some pictures in the bar there, and then we made our way over to the church and went in there. So I've been there a few times at St. John's. It's not that exciting. They did tell us it was going to be a 30-minute ceremony, no mass, and 2 speakers. It went for like 50 minutes. We had 10 minutes to do family portraits, and we had to get 310 guests out of the church. But we were able to quickly move through family portraits, and like the bride let us know, like, I want to be back to the venue by 5. And we wrapped up family portraits a little after 4. We went over to Race Street Pier, and the photo she had in her head has like the bridge in the background. And the problem was the sun was pointed that way, which meant the sun was in the bridal party's face. But that's what she wanted. So the Josh and Sean did a great job of like getting everyone organized and getting those taken. And the bride was very nice. The pictures are awesome from bride prep that I saw. I guess they were drinking a lot. She's like jumping on the bed. So I think she'll really like them. But her whole thing was she didn't want post pictures. She wanted all candids. She wanted motion blur. She liked black and white. She loves Olivia Culpa's engagement video. I mentioned that earlier. And she just kept saying she wanted candids. She didn't want things posed. And then when we were there, I was taking candids. And then she was like, oh, let's all stand here. And then she got the girls together. And then when I said something to give them a little bit of direction, she's like, well, I don't want it posed. And I was like, okay. So it was kind of funny. And then anytime I like pointed the camera in her direction, she would stop, look at me, and smile. So it was just funny. And she kept saying that they didn't want individual portraits, like bride and bridesmaid, groom and groomsmen. So we got lots of candids. But she was, adamant. She wanted to get back to the venue and go to cocktail hour. She had a huge bouquet. It was really pretty, all white flowers with like big sprays of orchids. His corsage was an orchid, a huge orchid. I couldn't believe it. So I like told him, I said, just be careful. Don't let anyone hug you on this side. I said, it's really fragile and it will snap. The petals will come off. The guys were really great. They were just like, I don't want to say open to but like, and if I gave them like a little tip or like a reminder about something, they were like appreciative. And it was just really nice working with them. The one guy towards the end of the night was like, excuse me, is the bathroom over there? And I was like, yeah, it's right over there. He goes, I'm so sorry. He's like, I don't know why I'm asking you. You don't work here. He said, all day I keep finding myself asking you stuff, but I think it's just because I trust you and you know what you're talking about. And I was like, it's okay. So they were just all really nice. And they're just these South Jersey guys. So at one point then I asked the one guy, how does everybody know each other? Are they like different friend groups? And he was like, no, we're all one huge friend group. A lot of them work together at an urgent care. The groom's mom works with them at the urgent care. And they've pretty much gone to high school together, grew up together. So he said that when they go, motorcycles. He said that when they go out on the weekends, it's these 16 guys and then like their girlfriends and wives. So they roll like 34, 40 people deep. So, I mean, it was kind of sweet. Like they're just this big gang of people get along that have known each other forever. And yeah, so we raced through the formal portraits on Josh and Sean. Sean was the lead photographer. No, Sean was the lead videographer. Josh was the lead photographer. Moved through portraits pretty quickly. They didn't want very many staged portraits. She was beautiful, really long, thick brown hair. Her dress, I don't know how to describe it. It had like the big long sleeves, like a satin dress, long, and then the back was like open, deep V in the front. So it was really a good dress for her. But her hair was down, and like I said, huge bouquet. She ended up ditching that at one point. She bustled like right when we got there for portraits. So, and she ditched her veil. She had a gorgeous veil. It was really long and then had like not a slight embroidery, like a floral design border. It was really pretty, but she ditched that like right after she got off the trolley. So they weren't very formal or stuffy. Cocktail hour was an hour and a half at Ballroom at the Bend. So much food, so many tables. And then after an hour and a half of cocktail hour, then they went and got seated. And the first course wasn't salads, it was pasta. And I knew that the timeline was going to be way off because they had said that the venue, understandably, wants to front load everything. So it was just one thing after the other. They don't like space things out. So when they gave us the events, everything was in 5-minute increments. It was like 7 o'clock introductions, 7:05 first dance, 7:10 3 dance set, 7:15 toast, 7:20 speeches, and you knew everything was going to take longer, but that they just had done it in 5-minute increments. So you really didn't know exactly what time we were going to get to cake cutting. The venue guy, Ott, his name was Ott, was super serious, just running around, very professional, but like intense. And he just knew they were going to get behind on stuff. So they had to serve, I guess the DJ was really awesome too. But they said that the grandmother, the bride's grandmother, is the one who planned the whole wedding and also paid for it. So I guess earlier in the week she called and said, instead of salads, I want to do the first course is pasta. And they were like, we can't do that. I can't do plate and do like 6 servings of pasta at a time for 310 people. And she was just like, well, that's what I want. And the DJ that really knows the venue guy really well, he's like, you got to do this for Jackie. Like it's not really an option. So that's what they did. So even though they served 4 types of pasta at cocktail hour, they opened dinner with pasta. So she knew what she wanted. So they were just like, from the beginning, they were a little bit behind, just trying to get everything done. So the DJ was funny because he was like, they paid a good amount of money for him to be the DJ. And he's like, I barely have time to play anything because it's like we go from this to this to this. I do a mini set, then we go to this. And he's like, and then the mummers come out. So the timeline had said string band, and I don't know what I was thinking the string band would be, but it was actually the mummers. So I had the DJ explain to the gentleman from Rhode Island what the mummers are. And sure enough, like as soon as we got through dinner, the cake cutting, they like didn't even have time to get the cake on the table. The photographer and the videographer had to help bring the cake out onto the dance floor for them to cut, just to like keep things moving. So they were all in good spirits, and the crowd, like they were ready to dance. They wanted to dance. They were having a good time. Lots of broken glasses on the dance floor, red wine everywhere, but everyone was happy. So I did stay through the mummers because you have to. It's the mummers. I tried to get a lot of motion blur for her, and then also like frozen action like on the dance floor with the light trails. But they were great. I had a chance to say goodbye to each of them. Just like I kind of just looked out for them so I could say goodbye. I wasn't going to like chase them down. But they were really sweet. They weren't drunk. They're probably going to be up super late. I'm sure there's an after party, but everyone was great. How was it there? I mean, there was a lot. I'm sure I'm going to think of 9 million more things that happened. But yeah, we went out onto the street at the end of cocktail hour, right before introductions, to get some shots out there. And I think Sean and Josh got some really good like portraits and some motion blur. So those were technically sunset photos. They were at 7. Sunset, well, I guess sunset was at 7:30. But we didn't do any balcony shots. There's like some iconic spots in the ballroom that people always do. And then there's also like an outdoor terrace area. The door was locked, but you could have I know we could have gotten permission to go out there. So I think they just weren't that into doing too many portraits. And it was funny when we were on the trolley, someone said to her like, oh, what are your centerpieces? Like, do you have centerpieces? She was like, oh, I don't know what they look like. Because the grandmother planned everything. So, yeah, it was interesting because the bride was not involved with a lot of things, but she knew what she wanted from pictures. So hopefully she'll be very happy. I think the guys will be happy. Like I said, they were just great. So that's it. So I'm going to review. I took a lot of photos. I started at like a reasonable pace in the beginning of the day, and then like once we got there and just trying to do like motion blur on the street, and then I got a bunch of cocktail hour grip and grins, so we should be good with that. But then trying to do like dance floor shots from the balcony, I tried to do like some motion blur there just for them to have options. So that's it. So the guys, I hope all three of them are spending the night at the hotel because they had a long day. All right, so that's it.
Hello, I'm back. I reviewed the photos. I took 2,183 over a 10-hour period, so that's 218 per hour. Things that went well. I thought that the groom getting dressed went really well. I was a little bit nervous heading in with that many people, but he was very accommodating and stood where we wanted him to. I thought those pictures came out nicely. I got some two-man style photos of him shaving in the bathroom, getting ready. And I asked him, when he went in there, because I kind of followed him in and then I got his permission to stay in there. So he was really easy to work with. I mentioned that earlier. He was great. And I said he was really on top of like all of the times and like keeping his guys on track. And they were pretty good too. There wasn't any pushback from them or any kind of grumbling. He got them down to the bar a little bit early and they hung out down there, which was nice because then we had more kind of ambiance for those shots rather than just them sitting around in like the more sterile hotel room. So that was nice to get those shots of them down at the bar. I liked a lot of those. Those were good candid shots. I think the bride will like those. It was great not having to do the individual portraits. Normally they're not too bad, when you've got 4 or 5 groomsmen, but the idea of having 16 would have been a little bit challenging. I did get some like mirror reflections in the church. I don't know what the ceiling has like the arches. I don't remember from art history class that I took twice in college. There's a specific name, but anyway, those kind of came out cool. I liked those just as an option to have in there. She specifically said she didn't want a lot of church photos. So I tried to be pretty restrained with that. I thought the cocktail hour photos came out nice. I was worried about how crowded it would be with that many people, but I was able to kind of get around pretty easily for the most part. The outside portraits, I mentioned I was able to do, really mess around with motion blur. So I didn't have they did a nice job of like positioning them and having like her walk in front of him. So he'll be in focus, she'll be motion blur, and then the reverse. I was off to the angle, so just kind of getting some additional shots. I don't know that they'll use any of them because I think the straight on shot's going to be much nicer, but I just tried to get any other shots that I could at all different settings. So there's some that are probably going to be too blurry in there, but I just wanted to have some variety. So frankly, I was happy with it. I was supposed to leave after speeches, but with everything running so long, I was able to stay through the mummers. So I was happy about that just because it's a good experience to shoot that and, have it in your portfolio. I also was happy being able to go back and forth to the balcony, getting some of those overhead shots. So just a variety, some super sharp, some with motion blur, just to have a variety for everybody. And then I think I got some good party dancing shots that they will probably like. So all of those things went really well. Logistically, there really weren't any problems. It was really pretty smooth. I'd mentioned earlier about like my trolley concerns. Here they have like an even longer trolley. So it was like just like not a double decker. It was just really long. So that worked out. Oh, I can't even imagine having to drive that. Also, I realized I referred to it as Harry Potter's sword. And I was probably a little bit tired. It is a wand. And I do know that Harry Potter has a wand and not a sword. So I just wanted to clarify that. Things that didn't go as well. I don't love the flat lay. The guys' stuff, there's just not as much to work with. Additionally, as I was heading up to the room, they handed me like a quiver that you would have arrows in. And they're like, oh, here you go. And I realized it was a styling mat. So when I got up to the groom prep room, I went to open it and I couldn't figure out how to open it. Like the middle didn't open and then the top didn't come off. And I was like, Jane, do you know how to open this? And here it was a screw top, but there was a handle, whole thing. So I took out the styling mat and I was using that and it had a texture to it. So kind of like a velvet sofa or a sofa similar that like you get like the hand marks. So I had to keep like smoothing it out so that you wouldn't have any marks in it. And it was later on when the other photographer was showing me some of the bride prep pictures. And I saw his styling mat and I realized that it was curved up, whereas mine was curved down, which leads me to think that maybe I used it upside down. So I even asked Jaden at one point, like, hey, am I using this the right way? But he's 16 and he's only been doing this for a couple of months. So I'm not really going to lose any sleep over it. I did get some macro shots, which I always like kind of better anyway for the guys' details. Her stuff's going to be beautiful, so they should like that. I think I mentioned this too. The groom, he was all dressed in his really nice tux, and then he threw on a white bathrobe. And like for a split second, I almost told him not to, but then I'm like, I hadn't been with him that long, and I'm not going to start telling someone what to do. But then I saw his eyes at one point when he realized he had just put on a white fluffy bathrobe on top of a black tux. So he took it off, and there was only a little bit of like lint. So I got that off. But that could have been a bit of a disaster if he was covered in white fuzz. His boutonniere hung in there. He made it until pretty far into the reception. We went out to do pictures at one point, and he looked at me and he said, yeah, he's like, you were right. And it was like all, orchids, like once they've had a lot of contact, they kind of like become translucent. It was so like beat up. And he was appreciative that I told him ahead of time to like baby it and make sure no one was touching it. So we laughed because it made it through all of the important parts of the night. So I'd mentioned this earlier too. This wasn't a great, like, she wanted candids. But as I said, anytime I pointed the camera towards her, she would immediately smile. So then it's not as candid. So I started thinking maybe she was more meaning paparazzi shots. I don't know. But even like when we were out doing bridal party portraits, I had mentioned the guys were doing their big grouping of the guys, and I was just trying to get some candid shots of her. And anytime I did that, she would look and smile, and then all the girls would look. So if you're going to look at me, I'm going to make sure you're posed properly. And whenever I would say, okay, hey, if you can just move over here, she would be like, no, I just want them candid. So that was a bit of a struggle. I mean, I don't love a lot of those pictures because they're not candid and they're not properly posed. So I think they'll have something in there that they like, though. The cold sparklers were a little bit of a surprise. So even when we know they're coming, it's tough to make that adjustment because you don't know exactly when they're going to go off. But I think I did okay, like on the fly, but it was tough not even knowing to expect them. And that, I think, is, for the most part, it. So moving forward, I think I'm just going to try to take a look at the like front of the DJ area and look to see if they have like those little metal boxes and maybe just proactively ask if they have cold sparklers. But really, it was a good wedding. I'm following both of them on Instagram, and they are in the Maldives having a great vacation, or a honeymoon rather. So all in all, it went well. The team was great to work with. There wasn't anything that I was like disappointed in or upset about. And I got paid. So my payment went through. So I didn't get scammed. I mean, unless there's like some sort of long game going on that I'm unaware of. But that was it. So it all worked out. If you're still listening, it means you made it through the whole episode. Thank you. If you haven't already, please subscribe on whatever podcast platform you're listening. And if you would give us an honest rating and review, I would love that as well. Thank you so much.
Just pack a bag and follow the sun. Kick off your shoes and have some fun.
Thanks for listening to A Second Helping. Please like and subscribe.
'Cause you and I, oh yeah, we could fly so high.